Business on Purpose podcast.
Well, we did it. We ran a half marathon. My son and I, he smoked me, by the way. Hour and 27 minutes he ran it in. Me, 2:12. But we had a great time with some friends of ours running the half marathon, getting that done, and I walked away with some big-time transferable principles that I want to share with you. Hey, it's Scott Beebe with the Business on Purpose podcast. Time to be liberated from the chaos of working in your business, and let's get life right now. And real life is running a half marathon and being able to walk away with principles that I was able to do this past week. Number one, it is a whole lot easier to run a half marathon when other people are running than to just run it by yourself. It's part of the training for the half marathon, and I did pretty good on my training. Missed a couple of long run weekends, but for the most part stayed with it. And one of those weekends was an 8-miler, one of them was a 10-miler, one of them was an 11-mile run, and all those by myself. It is boring. In fact, where I'm at right now, I'm literally looking down the road that I ran one of those really long runs on. In fact, I can see the place that I did an earlier podcast from after one of those long runs. And when you can run with other people, and in your small business, that's not only your team members, but also, and I would even say as important, other small business owners. These are the ones who understand what it's like. They're running the same course to some extent. They're facing some of the similar headwinds that you might be facing. And to have that encouragement on the last couple of miles, it was really nice to have a couple of people that would say, hey, good job, keep going, keep going. And they were running with me. And I would tell them, hey, go ahead and pick it up. Let's run. I didn't even know who these people were. But we had something in common. So the ability to be able to run, the community that you need is really, really important as a small business owner. If you're in the low country of South Carolina, March 21st, go ahead and put it down on your calendar, March 21st, we're having our next Business on Purpose 12-week plan live event. We've had these for about the last year and a half, 2 years. An incredible opportunity for you as a heroic small business owner to be amidst other heroic small business owners who are running the same race. So that's one big takeaway, the opportunity to have people that you're running with. It makes it a whole lot more interesting when you're doing that. Yeah, there are moments where you're like, I'm not keeping up with her, or I'm way ahead of him and I thought I was going to be by. And you've got these mind games, which I'm going to get into that here in just a minute. Second principle is just that. Running a half marathon, I found, is more about the mind than it is about the body. Once you get the body in kind of basic shape. In fact, I can tell you that there were people of all shapes and sizes running this half marathon and running the marathon. Really fascinating to see. I had not shown up to one of those before. A friend of mine, Jarek Taylor, had finished a marathon, so I was on the back end of that. And so I just saw a few people come through. But for the most part, to see the beginning and to see people of all different backgrounds and shapes and sizes and everything else, I realized this was less about the physical aspect of it, although important, getting your body to a certain stage to be able to handle it. And probably the best example of that is there were people running a full marathon, and my body couldn't have handled that on that particular day. Now, if I would have trained for it, if I would have led my body up to that, having a 14-mile run, a 17-mile run, an 18-mile run, then maybe so. But to run a half marathon, I did not train for a full marathon. And so that's really important concept as well, is a lot of it's about the mind, because when you get to mile 4 and mile 8 and mile 10 and mile 11 and mile 12, your mind begins to play different tricks on you. And you have to start going around and outmaneuvering your mind so that your body will follow. And as long as your body can physically handle the impact of the distance, the question is, can your mind push it through? And so running a half marathon, running a small business, I think is a lot more about the mind than it is even about the body. I feel like the body can endure a lot, whereas the mind is a little bit more finicky. The mind has a softer and a quicker trigger. And so to be able to work around that mind game and continue to go and press through the mind is so incredibly important. And as a small business owner, for you to wake up this morning, today, whenever you're listening to this, and say, you know what, today is a mind game. And the arena, the endurance of the test is trying to push me out, but my mind is going to keep me in. Third element that I learned is you will face a headwind. we were coming out. It was about mile 8 or so, and the half marathon we ran was on Hilton Head Island. And there were two elements along this route that we had to run. Both were across what they call the Cross Island Parkway. It's a bridge that crosses one of the inlets into the island. Well, going over that bridge, obviously there's a hill up and there's a descent down. Well, going over, I crushed it. I killed it. In fact, I got on the other side of it. I was actually kind of looking forward to coming back because I felt so good going over and coming back down. Again, good in relative terms, right? And so coming back we had passed the halfway point. There was some momentum. It was past mile 7, going into mile 8. And I felt good. And I'm here to tell you, as soon as we hit that bridge, it's like God himself started sneezing and blowing. The wind was relentless. It was like a wall. And it was so frustrating. It was so demoralizing to have that momentum, to feel like I was making really great progress. I wasn't tracking with the 2-hour pacer, but I was way in front of the 2-hour and 15-minute pacer. And I felt really good, and all of a sudden hit a wall. And it was a wall of wind. And so everybody was hitting this wall. You were looking up the hill. You could see so many of these people who were ahead of me. They were walking because it was demoralizing. It wasn't that their body couldn't take the running movement. It was that their mind was just so irritated and frustrated. And so by the time we got over it, the wind just kind of kept whipping down what I would classify as somewhat of a straightaway. And you were enduring the last 4 or 5 miles with just this wind. And there were moments of reprieve, but at the end of the day, it was just a lot of wind. And even that, by the time I got done with the marathon, my shirt was sweaty, but my body wasn't. I was completely dry because of the wind. You could see salt marks on the side of my face because of the wind. And so that was the big story when we got back, is the mind game to be able to push through that wind. In running a small business or running a half marathon, run it with other small business owners. Understand that it's more about the mind than it is the body. And finally, you're going to face a headwind. Begin to prepare for it. Begin to plan on it and keep moving your legs. Keep moving your legs. 96% of all small businesses fail within the first 10 years. Why? Not because they run out of cash, but because the business owner runs out of gas. And I don't want you to do that. I want you to have a vision of where you're going. mybusinessonpurpose.com/vision is where you can get started to articulate that vision, to write that vision down so that other people can run with you. It was a great adventure. We'll see you next time right here on the Business on Purpose podcast.